Sorry, trying to get the camera working. Here we go.
Sorry, I came from Brooklyn. I had to hop in the shower. I was feeling dirty. I was feeling sweaty. Sorry about that, man.
That's fine, no worries.
So how was your day today, man?
I was doing good. Yeah, just work from home today, hanging out. Yeah, not too bad. How about you?
It was good. Like I said, I was Ubering. I had to drop off a shoe in UPS, and I was Ubering, and this one guy took me all the way to Brooklyn, so I was stuck in traffic. Justin, what do you do exactly? Tell us what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a currently a structural engineer for an aerospace company. Working for it's a company that does like aircraft modification for like military aircraft usually, but sometimes commercial aircraft too.
Nice. And how long you been with them now?
Almost 3 years. 1 month shy of 3 years, or maybe 2 months.
Nice, nice. So it's funny because that guy that I drove to Brooklyn, he was actually a Marine, and I swear it was divine intervention because I know that you were a Marine, and that was actually the first topic that I wanted to talk about. Because he I don't know, he didn't really get too much into detail, but he was a Marine for 3.5 years, and then now he told me that he has a pension. So I figured that something must have happened, right? Like 3.5 years to get a pension. He was only 26 years old, so something must have happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's tough to say because I don't know him, but sounds like he got some kind of medical injury, probably. That's usually because typically for like a retirement pension, it's for you got to stay in for like 20 years. But if you get like medically hurt or discharged or something like that, yeah, the military will compensate you for that. Yeah, for that medical injury.
Yeah, I figured something happened because he also told me he was a sniper, and he told me, he had a little bit of a PTSD, and also things that had nothing to do with his job. His mom was murdered,
Mhm.
and but really rough life. It was a long ride, but we exchanged numbers, and I'm gonna drive him tomorrow. But that's a
Okay.
different story. But I did wanted to talk about the military because I know you were a Marine for how long?
6 years.
6 years. Nice. So you started at 18.
17. Yeah,
Oh
joined
wow.
at 17. Yeah,
I
just
didn't even know
before I.
you could join at 17.
Yeah, yeah, you can join at 17. You have to get your like guardians or like parents' permission. No, they have to like sign off on it.
Justin, were you at war or no?
I was in Afghanistan for 6.5 months,
So okay, I'm just gonna
turning
assume
2019.
that you don't really want to talk about that.
I mean, it wasn't really crazy. Not like back in like 2010 or anything like that. So it wasn't like too bad. We were just doing like security for a base that for an Afghani base that we were staying on. So it was not bad.
Are you comfortable with talking about that experience?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, for the most part, yeah.
So did you, so because I know a lot of soldiers come back, seeing crazy things and with PTSD. So did you experience anything crazy, or did you see anything like that?
Uh, no, not really. Probably like the craziest thing that happened was there was some army guy. um, Obviously you said I was in the Marines. We had both Army guys and Marines stationed on our base, and some Army guy was cleaning out one of his Mark 19s, which is like a gun that like shoots grenades, basically. And it was still like loaded while he was cleaning it, and he accidentally ND'd, which is just like an accidentally like shooting the gun. um, and he shot one of these grenades off, and it like landed in the base and like hit somebody and almost killed them. It was like pretty scary, and I was actually like on duty at the time, and we thought we were like getting attacked. So our like base commander like came into like our command room and like ordered us to like shut down the base and like get everyone in the bunkers, um, and then like figure out what's going on. And yeah, we like found like the scene, and like rushed our medical staff over there to like get him to surgery. And basically, he had to get like flown all the way home. I forget what the hospital's name is, but it's a hospital in Maryland. And yeah, he went through like surgery and like almost died. It was pretty crazy.
But he survived.
He did. Yeah, I think he made a full recovery. I haven't talked to him since, but yeah, pretty sure he made a full recovery.
That's really good to hear. And the guy who made the mistake must be dead meat right now.
Yeah, I mean, they kept it under wraps. Like they didn't really release a lot of the details. Everything that like I heard was mostly just like through word of mouth. But I know like NCIS like came out and like did like a whole investigation and all that. So yeah, it was like pretty crazy, and there was a lot of tension between like the army unit and like my unit that was there. After that happened too, like people were like looking to fight about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to blame them for wanting to fight, especially wanting to fight him, because that's a really, really traumatizing experience. Did you actually see it happen?
I was probably 50 to 100 feet away, but like inside a building. I like heard it happen. But to be honest, like from like where I was located and like because I was in a building, it kind of like sounded like because we would have like trucks driving on base. So it kind of just sounded like a truck like banged into something really loud.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I didn't really like think too much of it. Like it sounded really weird, but I didn't hear anything afterward. So I kind of just like waved it off. um, this happened about like maybe 4 or 5 months into my deployment. It was like towards the end, and by that time you're kind of like not as scared about like big explosions like that, especially because we would have like EOD on base where they would do like random explosions without telling us, which was
Uh,
kind of like annoying because we're like doing training
Super
every
annoying.
now. Yeah, you would hear it in like the middle of the night, and then you'd be like, "What the fuck's going on? What was that?"
Yeah.
Uh, and then you'll find out it was just like EOD doing their training. It's like it wasn't like super unusual to hear stuff like that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But yeah, like I said, what happened was like my commander, base commander, or I'm sorry, company commander, came running into our like base defense center, and just started screaming like, "What is going on? What was that?" And like kind of shut the whole base down and all that.
Yeah, so I know that I'd be scared in that experience. And whenever I hear experiences like these and people coming back with PTSD and people dying, whenever I hear experiences, such negative experiences, I always wonder like what is the motivation to go into the military? Because we all know that the pay isn't great. So Justin, what was your motivation to get into the military?
Yeah, everyone's got different reasons. I think a lot of people come from backgrounds where they don't really have much else. Like a lot of the people that I knew when I was in the military, not a lot, but some, came from like ghettos or like poor neighborhoods and like didn't really have any other options. So for them, like the military just kind of like gave them a way out. Um, for me, I just kind of like I guess it was really like just looked really cool. Like the Marines have like cool uniforms. A lot of people will say that. That was part of the reason. I wanted to also just like do something that was like really challenging. And like, yeah, when I was in high school, I didn't really have a lot of direction myself, like whether I wanted to go to college or the military or anything. So I kind of just made a decision based on that too. And yeah, so basically, challenge, cool uniforms, like kind of like the prestige of it, um, and like looking for like a little bit of direction in life too.
Justin, you look really cold right now.
I keep it cold in my house.
Is there a reason for that?
Uh, I just find it a little bit more comfortable. Honestly, I like it like low 60s usually. And I'm out here in Denver, Colorado, so today was like 30 degrees. It's not like super cold, but it's a little bit colder.
Yeah, yeah, that 30 is pretty cold to me because it's like today is actually one of the warmer days. Today is like 50, 51 in New York. So and it's also healthier for the body. So, you went in at 17 as a kid, not even a grown man, as a kid. You must have been the youngest one in the area.
Yeah, I was typically one of the younger people, for like, I guess if you want to call it like my age group, like my cohort, if you will. Because yeah, most people were probably at least 18 years old. And then you would also, it's kind of funny, you get some like stragglers, or not stragglers,
Right.
but just some people who were kind of on the opposite end too. I think there was one guy I went to boot camp with who was like maybe 28 years old or something like that. So as old as I am now, actually. Um, yeah. So it's kind of funny. You get people all the way from 17 up to like late 20s, maybe even early 30s. I don't remember what the exact age limit is for boot camp, but yeah.
Yeah, I always wondered what the age limit is. It's probably somewhere in the 30s or 40s. So, obviously you were there for 6 years. whether you go through something traumatic or not, whether you go to war or not, you're not going to come back the same exact person that goes in. So, Justin, how did you come back? How did the military change you?
Um, I think I came back definitely like kind of like more disciplined, like had felt like I had a little bit more direction in my life and that like I wanted to like do better things and like really make a career for myself. So I think it kind of like taught me like pride in myself, pride in my work. Um, and yeah, like I said, like really taught me direction and like how to just like be like a more confident person too, and just like really figure myself out.
Yeah, I mean, when you're 17, nobody knows what they're doing at 17. Like I didn't know anything about real estate at 17. I wanted to be a phys ed teacher at 17. So, when you can't blame any 17-year-old for not having direction, because you're 17,
Mhm.
you don't know the world at 17. You don't even know yourself at 17. And I'm sure now you know yourself much more. But you did bring up the word confident, which I want to talk about. When you were 17, did you say that you were kind of like had confidence, low confidence at 17?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely not as much now. I mean, me and you obviously like grew up together for the most part, and I was definitely like a more quiet kid, and even to this day, I can be a little bit more reserved. But I'm definitely like much more open and like willing to like meet people and like do things on my own now. Whereas, yeah, back when I was a teenager, kind of just hung out in my room a lot, didn't really do much, play like video games, didn't really like interact or socialize too much. But I think being in the military definitely put me in like situations where I kind of had to like act on my own and think on my own, and kind of like grow out of my like it forced you to grow out of your shell. Um, and yeah, I think it really just helped me like grow into like being like a more like confident adult.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to picture like a 17-year-old. You were probably like 140 pounds, if even, going into the military, being screamed at by these sergeants. These guys are twice your size, and I'm trying to figure out like you that must have been like a scary experience in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely pretty nerve wracking. You kind of get used to it quick, I guess, because it's kind of just your, every day, 24/7. I think they wake you up at like 4:30 in the morning. You go to bed at like 10 maybe, and then sometimes they wake you up in the middle of the night, and the whole time you're just like constantly being watched. Not always, for the most part, being yelled at, but it's not like they're constantly yelling at you. But yeah, it's a lot of like screaming, a lot of really having to do your part and like learning, how to be like part of a team and like get the job done right, so that you don't get yelled at.
It's funny because I'm a grown ass man, and I feel like if one of these sergeants screamed at me, I just want to slap the shit out of him.
Yeah,
Like I wouldn't. That's one reason why I can't go to the military because those sergeants must have been annoying. But so what, like I said, so whenever I hear like these experiences about sergeants being annoying and this and that, there must have been like many times when you were like, oh, why did I even do this? Why did I sign up? I want to go home. Why did I even sign up for this shit?
uh, believe it or not, for me, I didn't really experience too many times like that. Like I can think of maybe one or two, where I was like, damn, like why the hell am I here? Like I'm just getting yelled at constantly, like
Hmm.
being told I'm like doing things wrong when like I'm doing my best, whatever. But at the end of the day, like I feel like I'm a pretty committed person and like and also pretty decisive, even back then. So like once I like kind of set my mind on something, I was like, no, this is what I'm doing. I'm here to do this, job or task or accomplish this goal. Um, so yeah, it never really rung in my mind that like, damn, I wish I wasn't here.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me because it's the military is, especially the Marines, it's very very far from a comfortable experience, and most people are very very about comfort, right? They're about waking up whenever they want. They're about eating good breakfast and spending time with family. And you must have missed some holidays while you were out there.
uh, Trying to think. At least for boot camp, I didn't really miss much. I was gone for July to October.
Mhm.
So I didn't really miss any holidays when I was on deployment. What was that? I was gone from January to April for pre-deployment training, and then April to October for not my actual deployment. And then I got home. I was back in New York by late November. So I was actually home, luckily enough, for pretty much all the holidays. It just kind of
Nice.
how it lined up. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I got lucky there.
Yeah, that's that because I would be pissed to miss Christmas and Thanksgiving. I'd definitely be pissed about that. I was speaking to this. I think he was in the army. This was years ago when I used to work at Cardozo High School as school safety, and he was one of those guys in the cafeteria that were trying to recruit the kids. And I was
Hmm.
speaking to him, and he told me straight up, like, listen, honestly, nobody wants to go to war. Nobody wants to go to war. Like, basically, like he was admitting to me as a soldier that nobody really wants to go to war. So what would you say that's true?
I would say for the most part that's true. I think there's always going to be that like kind of one crazy guy who just like doesn't care, and like thinks that there's some kind of hard ass and like some really good soldier or whatever, and like really wants to get out there and get into like a gunfight with the enemy and do all the crazy things. But they'll say that, and then I think those are the same guys who will actually get into it, into like a real fight,
Yeah.
and kind of like shit themselves or not actually be as tough as they think they are. So yeah, I think for the most part that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine so. So let's just say that, for instance, you did go to war. Wouldn't that be an extremely like anxiety provoking? Like, wouldn't that be terrifying for you?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely was when before I got to Afghanistan. I didn't really know what I was going to be in for. It was my first deployment.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I didn't know what I was going to be in for. I didn't really know if I was going to be making it home. I mean, um, so my unit has like different three, four different companies in it. Fox Company, Echo Company, Golf Company, and Weapons Company. I went with Fox Company for my deployment, but we had other companies do other deployments as well. Like we relieved our Golf Company and like took their place out in Afghanistan, but we had people from Weapons and Echo Company also doing some similar deployments to Jordan, and then they would actually go from Jordan to Afghanistan or Iraq. And we actually had three guys die in a vehicle explosion.
Oh my gosh.
Um, Actually, it was about 10 days into my deployment. They were almost done with their deployment. They were probably coming home within a month, and they were. I don't know the full story. I've talked to some guys who were there, but obviously I wasn't there. I think they were doing a some sort of like transport mission, transporting some Afghani official, a government official, and the Taliban left like a vehicle. It's called a vehicle-borne IED, the VBID. um, they left it on the side of the road, and they detonated it as soon as one of the trucks was driving by, and it killed almost everybody in there. And yeah, it was like three guys from my unit died that day. And that happened about 10 days into my deployment. And we heard about it. And I was actually one of the guys who died was the brother of someone I was deployed with. So 10 days into our deployment, they uh, sent him all the way back home. We literally just got to Afghanistan. They sent him back to the United States so he could bury his brother. And he actually had a choice to stay in the U.S. or come back, and he ended up coming back to Afghanistan. Um, so yeah, it was all this to say is that it was definitely pretty nerve wracking um, before our deployment and early deployment, but probably after the probably 2 or 3 months into it, you kind of just get used to things. That there's actually a word for it. It's people just call it like complacency. Um, and like a huge part of your pre-deployment training is just like focused on like not getting complacent, because typically when guys get displacement, that's complacent, that's like when they start getting killed or like falling asleep on security watch, or not really paying attention when you're out on patrol or something like that. That's when the enemy typically performs some sort of successful attacks and someone gets wounded or hurt or dies.
Yeah, so man, that's a lot to take in because those guys. Did you know those guys or did you not know those guys?
I didn't know any of them personally. Like I never. Two of them were from Echo Company, and then one was from Weapons. Like I said, I did know the brother pretty well. We went through. We were like, it's called like poolies. It's like before you go to boot camp. It's what they call you before you go to boot camp. We were poolies together, and then I like watched him go off to boot camp and come back after graduation, and then we were not like super close when we were at our unit, but we would bump into each other and like say what's up and hang out every now and then. And during our deployment, we got closer as well. But yeah, the three guys who like actually died, I didn't know them personally, but a lot of the people who I was deployed with did know them,
Hmm.
which was pretty unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, whether you know them or not, it's a scary experience because you don't want to hear about anybody dying, because in the back of your head, it could be you one day. So, I don't even know. This is why I would never even go to the military. I don't know how people, have that courage. And, this is why in my opinion, the military is ridiculously underpaid. How do you feel? Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, for the most part, yes, I do. I mean, it's kind of yeah. I mean, yeah, I do. I think a lot of military barracks, especially in the Marines and Army. I know some guys who are in the Army too. A lot of the barracks that they live in, they tend to be like filled with mold. Like the building's like falling apart. It's not really up to code. Doesn't really have like working heaters or air conditioning. The typically like the food is served at like the mess halls is not the best, either like nutrition wise or just like like they'll give you a plate full of food and it'll have like mold on it or it'll just be
Oh,
like old and really nasty looking. Yeah, and then as far as like actual pay goes, like I think when you first join the military, you're a private like E1, and you're probably making like somewhere around 20 grand a year or something like that. Do I think that? I mean, how much more do I think that people should get paid? I'm not really sure, but um, you make a pretty minimum amount. That being said, they do offer, like the barracks are free housing. Um, and I think you get like subsidized like food and stuff like that. They do take out money for out of your paycheck for like the mess halls and stuff like that, but I think it's relatively cheap. But again, it sucks. A lot of people end up like going out to eat anyway, like just at restaurants and stuff like that. But yeah, they'll like subsidize some things, but not everything. Um, yeah, another example would be like your uniforms. Like you have to pay for your uniforms, and you have to pay to get them tailored and like
oh man.
make sure they're like up to date and all that. Yeah,
They don't give a uniform allowance?
they do, I think, but it's not much, and you most likely will end up using it and more. I can't really remember, to be honest with you, what it is.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this sounds like a terrible situation, like first of all, I think soldiers it should be way more than 20. I don't know what the exact amount is, but I would say at least in my opinion, at least six figures, and especially the ones that are in war. I mean, I don't know all the details, but I think the ones in war should get even more than that. And like I know that there are a lot of benefits like the VA loan and free, obviously you get free housing while you're there. But when you're there, you're sleeping with other dudes, right? You don't have your own room.
No, it kind of depends on your rank and just like availability. I slept in a tent with anywhere from probably 10 to 20 guys at any given time. It was, I mean, they're pretty big tents, and it really depends on like again like your rank and like who you know, on how well you can get your setup. But like some guys, I mean, like we had like a TV in our room and we were able to at least like watch TV and stuff like that. But yeah, some guys really get crammed in there, and it kind of sucks. But my setup usually was not that bad when I was in Afghanistan. And as far as pay goes, when you're deployed, they do actually have um, what's called what is it, like danger pay? I think it is, but it's not much. I think it's like if I remember right, it's maybe like an extra $50 a paycheck or something like that. Crazy. Yeah, it's not like a substantial amount. I might be wrong on that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I believe that it really should be a substantial amount when you're risking your life. And obviously, if they raise the pay, more people will be inspired to be soldiers, right? If they did make six figures, a lot more people would join the military. So I think that needs to change fast. And there is a lot of people like you probably know about Mark Cuban, like trying to help the veterans. And I'm really thankful for the people that are trying to help the veterans because especially a lot of them have PTSD, a lot of them are missing limbs, so it's definitely what we need. So I was a school safety officer for 10 years, and we school safety actually shares the same academy with the police. They share the same academy. At the time it was in Manhattan, now it's in College Point. And it's paramilitary. So even though like we get to go home at night, we are being screamed at constantly, and like sometimes I really wonder like how necessary the screaming is. Like all the screaming did would just piss me off, especially when it was like about something stupid or something petty or when they were wrong. Like sometimes I really wonder, like, is this really like necessary? Is this really thickening anyone's skin? Like, is this really it? Like for me, it was just pissing me off. So, how necessary do you think that whole like screaming culture is in the military? Do you think that's necessary?
Yeah, I'm not. I don't have a great answer for that. I think there are actually studies maybe done on that, but the whole point of it is just to kind of at least for like the military. I'm not sure. Maybe they're just trying to copy it, but I'm not sure about for police or safety officers. But
Mm-hmm.
for the point of the military to do that is to simulate like combat environment. Like you're supposed to be put into a stressful environment, so you can kind of like learn and teach yourself how to like react and conduct yourself like when you're stressed out. Because if you're having like bombs, thrown at you from the enemy, or you're in a gunfight or whatever, yeah, it's going to be a stressful situation. Like people are going to be yelling and screaming. You're not really going to know what's going on. Um, yeah, so I think that that's really like the whole point of it. As far as like its effectiveness and whether I think it's necessary, um, I think to some degree it works.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are situations where it calls for it and situations where it doesn't. Like there were a lot of times where my drill instructors, they weren't necessarily like yelling and screaming at you. Like there are times where they'll actually like sit you down, they'll have like an actual conversation with you and like teach you what you need to know, in like a calmer manner and like really take you step by step, such as like even small things like just like how to like press your uniform and wear it correctly, or how to like clean your gun, or well, actually, one really good example during there's like a whole week dedicated to it. It's called Range Week during boot camp, where they actually you're not really too as involved with your drill instructors. They have actual what do they call them? I forget. We'll call them marksmanship instructors for now, shooting instructors, whatever. Um, yeah, so you'll when you go during range week and you're learning from the shooting instructors, they're actually just like normal guys. They're not drill instructors. They're not trained in the same way as drill instructors. They're literally just there to teach you how to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's literally like you and me talking. Like they're,
Normal
they're super
people.
calm. Yeah, normal people. They're there to help you out, make sure you do the best that you can, teach you the fundamentals. And you're actually not so much in a stressful environment during that. So yeah, I mean, I think there's times and places for it. Um, yeah, I think it can be necessary,
I
but
think that's
it's
a good
not.
answer. I think that's a good answer that there's a time and place for it. Maybe some of them overdo it, maybe some of them don't. But I think that is a good answer now that, I think about it. Because, the thing about me is I'm like the most nonchalant guy. Like I let so many things go and like if I was a drill sergeant, I'd probably be the most chill drill sergeant in the whole place. Like I'll just be like, all right, you wanna not do push-ups? That's gonna hurt you, man. You want to do half push-ups like a little girl? That's on you, man. So I think I'd be like the most nonchalant guy. Justin, what is your favorite military movie?
Favorite military movie? Can I pick out a series instead?
Sure, sure.
I thought the Pacific was really good, actually. Yeah, I thought. Obviously, I wasn't there, but it's all about the Pacific Theater during World War II. um, Following, I mean, it goes through like some famous figures like John Basilone and Chesty Puller. They were all Marines who well, Chesty Puller didn't win the Medal of Honor, but he was pretty decorated still. Um, and he's actually like one of the most famous colonels there is in like the military. But John Basilone was a Medal of Honor winner, and it kind of goes through like a story of like John Basilone. It'll show just Chesty Puller a little bit, and like some different guys as well that were I don't want to say as monumental as John Basilone, but like pretty integral to like the war effort, especially within our units. And it just really shows like what like a true war was. And I think it does a really good job at showing what how Marines actually act. Like it's kind of funny. Like that's kind of like why I watched it. I watched it probably like over this past summer because it kind of just I don't know it was a little comforting almost like kind of just reminded me like how it was to interact with like my friends when I was in the military and deployed. People just like ragging on each other, like people get into fights, but like they're stupid fights and they move past it and make up. Or they'll like there's like a lot of camaraderie between people after they spend enough time. But it also kind of shows you, like I said, what war can really be like. Like the past 20 years or so when we were in the Middle East, like, yes, there was a lot of crazy things that people went through and suffered. But I think in relation to or comparing to, like Vietnam War or any of the World War One or World War Two, um, it kind of pales in comparison, I think. In my opinion, what those guys went through, and I think it really shows a lot of the horrors that people actually went through for a crazy war like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there are a few movies. I mean, not that I've ever been in war or in the military, but there are a few movies that really bring out the reality. That have you seen Hacksaw Ridge?
I'm sure I have at one point, but not recently.
Yeah, it's with Andrew Garfield. It's really good. Check it out when you get a chance. But yeah, so even though I'm sure that if I had to guess, your mentality is, well, yes, I do miss it, but I really don't miss it. Like I'm really happy that I quit. I would never go back. There's a part of me that misses it, but I'm happy where I am right now. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, kind of you nailed it. I would say, like, I don't really want to go back. I think, but yeah, I definitely am happy that I did it. I mean, I've met a lot of my closest friends to this day because of it. And I think it, like I kind of was saying during the beginning of our interview, really set me up for having like a good direction in life and set me up with like not having any student loans. I bought a house a couple years ago, and being able to use like the VA benefits for that was super useful. Um, yeah, I'm super glad I did it. Yeah, helped me out with school, education, housing, career, everything, personal relationships. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a chapter in my life that I've closed.
Mhm.
And I don't regret it at all, but I don't want to continue it either.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all, man. Listen, I know you're pressed for time, so we're gonna wrap this up. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the military helped you in many different ways, whether it's financial, emotional. It helped you figure out what you wanted, and I'm sure it taught you a lot about yourself. I'm willing to bet that you've never been in such a challenging and stressful situation, especially physically. So, I'm sure it's probably the physically hardest thing that you've ever had to do, and I highly doubt that you'll ever have anything in the future that was physically harder than being a Marine. I was on the wrestling team, so that was my hardest physical thing I've ever done. Way harder than the police academy, by the way. But I'm done with that, and I'm sure I forget. I think it was Jamie Foxx who said it in a movie. He said something like, the good thing about war is even though it's hard as hell, after this, everything is butter, everything is easy. And I never forget that line. So now you went through hell, but the good news is that now everything in life is really easy to comparison. I know you're pressed for time, but I just wanted to let you know, bro, that I'm really proud of you for not giving up and going to the military and pushing through and fighting through the push-ups and dealing with the annoying ass drill sergeants. And I'm proud of you for all of that, man. I really am.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I very much appreciate it.
No problem, man. Have a good one, man. Take care. Enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, you too. Have a
All
good
right.
one.
Nice. Bye.